Yo, hello guys. So I decided to make a tier list of characters in Genshin Impact because there'll be a lot of rerun banners coming soon or in the soon future. Unfortunately, I missed the Venti and Tartaglia rerun, but whatever. Hey, there will be lot of others. So let's jump right into it. Starting off with Bennett. Well, Bennett, I think he's a little bit overrated. Like, not so overrated, but he heals for a shit ton. He's definitely like SS, double S tier, because he can heal you, he can do tons of damage, he can do tens of thousands of damage with his E if you build him correctly, and if he can literally buff your DPS, main DPS into oblivion, so he's definitely a god tier character. But as for generating elemental reactions, he isn't the best because all of his spells applicate the element only once, and that doesn't quite go with some characters. But you can make up for it. So he's not a one-man army, but he's definitely a great healer to have. Following with Xiangling. Now, Xiangling is a wonderful combo with Bennett. If you combo these two, Bennett will heal and buff, and Xiangling will apply the Pyro, plus you get Pyro Resonance, and you can buff DPS like Tartaglia into Oblivion, and he will do shit ton of damage. But overall, she's not as strong. Like, don't take me wrong, she can do tons of damage, but her C6 kinda makes her weak, because it buffs pyro damage of your party, and how will that help Tartaglia, a Xiao, or I don't know, a Ganyu? It just buffs herself for the Bennett. So maybe if you use her somewhat like Diluc or Klee, it could be good. And I forgot to mention one thing about Bennett, please, for the love of God, don't. If you ever get the C6 for Bennett, don't upgrade, just don't. Read it first and think about it. It converts all characters' damage, normal attack damage, into pyro. That might sound cool, but actually if you are running someone like Razor, whose main damage is physical damage, and he's got tons of physical damage built in his kit, and if you're running a Razor, you'll probably get shit ton of physical damage bonuses in artifacts, and your weapon is gonna give you physical damage as well. And once your normal attacks are pyro, you're gonna lose on all of the damage. Another good example might be, I don't know, maybe Chongyun. I don't know how does it synergize with his E, if it counteracts it or not. And I don't know how it works when combined with catching's E. Also, you'll ruin your physical catching if you're running a physical catching. But it's great. It's like a great enhancement for Diluc, because you're gonna do more damage with your normal attacks, but that's the only thing. Or if you're running with physical Zhongli, it will ruin him as well. So don't max it. It will ruin many combinations. Now Sucrose. Sucrose is a very underrated character. Yes, she can group many things. They call her Walmart 20. No, she's not a Walmart 20. I think Sucrose is much better, because Venti sucks everything in and keeps it like in the air, which is great for someone like Klee or Ganyu or DPS Mona or Yanfei. However, if you use someone like Tartaglia, you'll just stand there and you can do nothing because everything is up in the air and you can't reach it. However, Sucrose keeps everything on the ground. She sucks it in and keeps it on the ground. And that's not the only thing she does. She can generate so much energy that like if you run, she's the best support for Zhao. Like Zhao might have some energy recharge problems, but if you run Sucrose with him and you build her correctly, when your Zhao ult ends, you just triple E with Sucrose and your Zhao ult is back. Also, she's got the little talent that gives her characters elemental mastery with some base value of I think 50 or 20, I don't exactly remember, but the second talent is even bigger because it shares portion of her elemental mastery with her entire party when her E damages an opponent, so that's huge. Like, it's not that hard to get something like 800 EM on her if you're running EM Timepiece, EM Goblet or EM Circlet, so I think she's definitely belongs here with our little boy Bennett. And now for my boy Zhao. Now Zhao, I think Zhao is the strongest DPS in the game. Don't get me wrong, I know Ganyu and Hu Tao are broken, but Zhao, he literally doesn't care about any elemental shields except the Electro one. Yeah, that one's annoying as hell. That one's only destroyable by cryo. But you can make up for that. The only enemies that do not get damaged by Shao in his ultimate are Anemo slimes, and like I don't remember any Abyss floor where there were Anemo slimes after floor 8. So it's basically irrelevant, and before that you could normally kill them with his normal attacks. Now, he does have some disadvantages, like he's definitely squishy. He's squishy, I know that. Because the HP drain from his ultimate might be quite insane, but if you level his ult to some extent, the HP drain gets really smaller, and it's getting better and better, and you can basically make up for that with the healer, so it's not that big of an issue. You get one amazing healer that synergizes well with him for free, and that's Barbara. Yes, she can freeze you to death, but if you are not dumb, you can not get frozen to death. So yeah, and his only big disadvantage is that he has a set team comp. You can't do much about it, about his team comp. You always will want to have a healer or a shielder and Sucrose or Venti or any other Anemo character, because he needs Anemo resonance, or any other character that can generate energy because he needs it. And fourth will usually be something like Bennett. But overall, I think he belongs here because his damage output is just insane. And if you manage to get him to C6, he's on a whole another level. Now Venti. Venti is a wonderful character. Like, if you come across anything that can get sucked in your ult, and that's pretty much anything except the bigger mobs, well, that's actually like half of the mobs in the game, so yeah. When you come across like the smaller mobs, you just ult them and they die. Now, I would call him a little bit overrated. His utility is amazing, but there's one underrated part about him. That's the thing that makes him god tier, and it's the fact that you literally don't have to put any artifacts on him and he will still be great, because he's a utility character. He's a CC character who generates shit ton of energy, so I'll put him in here. He's not god tier because unlike Zhao, who's good against everything, he's good against big mobs, small mobs. Venti is good only against smaller mobs. Like, he's also good against the bigger ones, because like if you pop the ult and infuse it with some element, you can use it as, like, for example, if you combine it with Child, you do Pyro Venti ult and E with Child, and you just destroy the boss. But you can do that with the elemental support and they'll do it even better. So He's getting outscaled on these bigger mobs by far. Even Sucrose is better against these bigger ones. So yeah. Now moving on to Jean. Jean is a great healer. Is the I might say actually say she's the best, second best healer in the game. However, if I had to, or if I have to rate her by, yeah, I think I'm a put her in here. I only use her on my friend's account, and she's like she's great. You can suck everything into your E and just push it into the wall and do like 30k wall damage, which is insane. But that's only the smaller mobs. Once you get into the bigger ones, only thing she can do is heal. And to heal, she either has to be on the field or she has to ult. And I don't exactly remember how her ult worked. If it heals over time or at once. Because I didn't have a chance to use her much, but yeah, her heals are very strong, but there are better characters in the game. Now, the main character. I think the main character isn't bad. Like, she's this is the thing you could call. She is the one you could call Walmart 20 because yeah, she has a something that could be used like a Venti ult. It can group enemies, but she doesn't have anything other that is like strong. She has a genie, but a little bit weaker. Although she's not bad. She's not bad. You can use her as DPS or as a support, but I'm a just put her in here. Now, Barbara. I used her a lot. I wanted to get her to C6 for my Zhao. Now her C6 is good. It's good. However, there's one thing that makes her dog shit, even at C6, and that's the fact that the C6 is broken. Like it's broken. It's literally broken. Like half of the time, I just wanted to kill myself to get rest to full HP, and it was 30 seconds after. Like the cooldown should have been back. Like I don't know, twice, and I just wanted to reset myself to full HP so I don't have to ult or I don't have to like heal myself with her E. And it just doesn't work. Like if Mihoyo fixed this, she might move up a bit, but there's another thing that's making her like dark tier, and that's her E. Her E is good. It's good because it can heal you while you're on the field. Like her ult is a burst healing, which is amazing. However, the fact that it constantly applies wet status on you is like terrible. It's terrible because if you come into an electro domain and then electro slime hits you with his lightning bolts, you're just gonna get staggered. And then another hits you, and the Barbara's E is gonna proc, and you're staggered again, and then again, and you just die. And that's why I think she belongs here with a Nemo Traveler. Yeah, she can be used to cleanse only one debuff with this E, and that's the Pyro debuff that deals continuous damage, but other ones are just uncleansable for her. And I don't think she's as great. Like you can still use her then. If there are not mobs that can freeze you, she's good, but once there are cryo slimes, cryo fatui, or anything that can apply cryo to, she's just dog shit. Now Mona, my girl Mona, can do some pretty decent one-shots. She's got nice burst damage, and the fact that her hydro damage scales with her energy recharge is also great because you can give her tons of energy recharge, spam ult of cooldown, and do giant damage while doing that. And you can also gain hydro damage from substats like this, which is great. I think she belongs here because she's such a good character. I won't call her god tier because she's not like good against everything. There are places where she's dog shit, like the Hydro Domain, for example, or the Oceanit. But she's a good unit. Now, Xingqiu. Xingqiu is a great unit because of his ultimate. His ultimate is amazing. If you combine him with someone like Hu Tao, he can be an amazing sub DPS, while also giving you damage reduction and healing you if you build him correctly. I think he belongs here. Now, Razor. Actually, before 1.5 went live, Razor was in a spotlight. Like, he wasn't like strong, but he wasn't weak. He deals damage, but he doesn't deal that much damage. But now, since the Pale Flame set came out, and the Pale Flame set can give you such a strong damage boost that if you're a physical damage dealer, that I think he might be even higher, but I think he belongs here with Xiangling because the biggest downside to his kit is the way his ult works. If you have your ult, you have the attack speed, you have the Soul Companion, you deal tons of damage. If you don't have your ult, you do like mediocre damage. However, his ult is just too long. It's too long, and you can't swap out. So if you're good, if you can dodge, and if you have someone like Diona or Kaya who can, or Ganyu, or I don't know, Rosaria, who can apply cryo long term to give him super conduct over time, that's great. And if you have a healer like Chi-Chi, it's even better. But if you don't have those, or don't want to use them, and you get hit and you drop too low and you're worried about dying, you'll just have to swap out, and then you'll lose the ult and you'll lose your damage. And yeah, that's the thing I hate about him. Like, I used him so much when I was in like early to mid game, but once I've gotten to late game, I dropped him. I just dropped him because I hate his selfish playstyle. I know there are many other characters who have this selfish playstyle, and I use them as well, but Razor is just not the thing for me. Although physical damage is great because it works against everything, so he might as well be good because of that. And in the new Spiral Abyss, the physical damage is great. So maybe I will build him in the future, and maybe I'll make a video about him if he's become broken with the new set. I don't know. I haven't seen him yet. Now moving on to Keqing. Keqing is a great unit. She's mobile. She's got amazing energy recharge. If you combine her with another Electro character, she generates tons of energy, and she does tons of damage. However, there's one thing that's holding her back, and that's her element. Now, Electro is in such a weird spot right now. Like, don't get me wrong, Electro Charge is a great DO tier elemental reaction if you have high attack speed and have someone like Xingqiu. Actually, Keqing Xingqiu combo is quite great. However, Overload sucks. Overload is like the worst elemental reaction there is, because what does it do? It does like mediocre damage, and it knocks back opponents. Means if you're melee like Keqing, you can deal damage. And yeah, the only viable elemental reaction for her is either Superconduct or Hydro, or the Electrocharged, which is not as strong if you want to do one shots. She's got nice DPS, but overall her damage isn't that great. Although she's so fun, she might as well be like here, but bef and she'll definitely be there after the electro buffs come in next patch, but for now she'll just stay here alongside Jean. Now Beidou is the same case, like her ult is so wonderful, like it's like a Razor ult, but you can swap it to another character. Yeah, it doesn't give you attack speed, but the electro buff it gives you is great. It's great with someone like Child, Hu Tao. It would be great with Hu Tao or Diluc if Electro wasn't so weak. And she might be here, but for now she'll just stay down here because of how weak Electro is. But after the buffs, I think she'll be here because, yeah, if miHoYo doesn't like screw up and doesn't make the buffs too weak, she'll be S tier next patch. Now Noelle. I've used a lot of Noelle in mid game because I liked her shields and I liked her healing. Although there are so many healers who can heal your DPS while the DPS is on the field, that she's kinda outshined because you have to keep her on the field to heal others. Like, don't get me wrong, her heals are amazing, her shields are amazing, but she's just not as good. So I'ma just put her in here. Now moving on to Ningguang. Ningguang is actually quite an underrated character, but because like she can do one shots, she can do tons of damage with Retracing Volite or Archaic Petra. She's definitely strong. I didn't use her as much. I also use her on my friend's account, and she did quite some decent amount of damage despite how weakly built she was. However, there's one thing that's holding her back, and that's her element, because Geo reaction suck. They just generate shields, and like, who needs shields? You can take in some elemental support who has shields and also deals damage while having some god tier DPS that has like Vaporize, Melt, or something like that, or even Electro Charged. So she'll just until miHoYo does something with Geo that will make it like a little bit stronger. I know the Geo resonance is strong, and the crystallized shields are valuable, but like, who are you gonna pair her with? Who is gonna give her those juicy elemental reactions? Like, nobody. You can just pair her with some supports, or they are gonna do everything on their own, and Ningguang is just gonna be the sole DPS that is gonna just stand there and hit, and the other supports will be just, I don't know, just by themselves. Now, Geo Traveler. Geo Traveler isn't that bad, actually. He can give you a crit rate boost with his ultimate, which a lot of people overlook. And if you build him with Noblesse Oblige, he can become quite a decent support for someone like DPS Zhongli. And I'll come back to this one later. But otherwise, he sucks. He's like, if you want to boost yourself with ult, he just is Bennett. But if you don't have Bennett, you can replace him with Traveler, but he will not heal you. He will just buff you. Otherwise, I think he's just dog shit. He's even worse than the Animo version. Now, Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi is a great unit. She's a wonderful healer. If you combine her with someone like DPS, physical DPS Razor, physical DPS Chi-Chi, physical DPS Kaching, she'll be great. She'll be great because she constantly applies cryo and she also heals you. She's the only healer that can make, except Diona, that can make Razor good. And her heals are the strongest in the game. Like, her passive, the thing you apply on the maps, is just so strong. I use her with my Xiao. I replaced Barbara with her once I got her, because she's so amazing. And unlike Barbara, she doesn't freeze you, which is great. She's definitely worth the 5-star title. But the thing with Chi-Chi is that she just the only thing she does she is healing. Like yeah, she can also do damage. Don't get me wrong. She can also do damage if you build her as a damage dealer. But damage just isn't just that great. It's not so big. Like if you are looking to build Diluc with a support that applies cryo and heals, I would rather choose Diona over her because like Diona's constellations are so easier to get, and also Chi-Chi's constellations suck. I think they suck because like yeah, C1 gives you some energy recharge, that's great. When I got it, I was like yeah, that's okay. But when I got C2, I was so mad because like her C2 is so useless. It makes her normal attack damage bigger. It's just so goddamn useless. But from up there, it's great. It's great actually. The upper ones are great. Like higher level of talents is always good, and C4 gives some debuff for the enemies, for the marked enemies, like 20% attack down or something like that, and her C6 can revive it all, but it has a pretty long cooldown actually. But yeah, overall I think she belongs here. She belongs here because, don't get me wrong, she's the best healer in the game in terms of healing alone, but in terms of utility, she's not as good. Although, if Razor becomes a meta because of the new set, she might move even higher because she might actually move in here. But yeah, she's only good with Razor, I think, or if it's Xiao, she's good. But with others, just meh. Now Lisa. Now the thing about Lisa, she's got an interesting role. She's like half main DPS and half sub DPS. Her ult works good as a sub DPS, but the rest of her kit is just made for main DPS. And she doesn't quite fit the playstyle. Like, I don't think her damage is so big. If you compare her to other characters, her damage is just small. And then there's the thing that her element is so weak that she's just dog shit. I have to put her in here because I think she's the second worst unit in the game. Because yeah, I use her in early to mid game as well. Like she isn't that bad. She isn't the worst, but she isn't the worst at early to mid game. But once you get to late game, she's just dog shit. Now Chongyun is an interesting unit. He can deal so much damage if it is ult, if you build him correctly. Although his E can have some pretty bad synergies with other DPSs like Razor, is the same as C6 Bennett. His E is the same as C6 Bennett. If you like convert Razor's normal attacks into cryo, it's just not good. Or physical Zhongli, or Xinyan, or anyone like that. However, he's great. He has a great option. If you combine him with DPS Rosaria, you can actually build a full cryo. You can build her full cryo damage and do massive damage with her normal attacks, ult, and E and everything, because everything's gonna be cryo, and that's Chongyun's like special. I don't know how to call that. That's his special secret strategy. He can do this with Kaya as well. So I'll put him in here. Like, he's definitely a good unit. Don't get me wrong, but the units above him are just way better. Now moving on to Klee. Now, the Klee is the only unit in the game I didn't get to use ever because none of my friends have her on her account. Like, I've done Spiral Abyss on my friends' accounts because they couldn't beat it many times, and none of single one of them has Klee. And I would actually love to try her one day. I might actually save for her because my next 5-star will be a guaranteed and I'm close to pity. So yeah, but back to her, she's a great damage dealer. I think she's a great damage dealer. She might feel a little bit clunky from what I've seen because her normal attacks are kinda slow. However, overall her damage output is just insane. She can one-shot things. she's like it's like she's like a little kid throwing nuclear bombs around. And I think she belongs here. Because there are places she's unusable at, so she can't like compare with Zhao. And there are units who outshined her. But I think she definitely belongs in the double S tier. Now, moving on to my boy Tartaglia. Tartaglia is a great unit. I think it's one of the best DPS in the game because of how strong his Riptide effects are. Like, he can generate so many tiny numbers, like the Riptide slashes, flashes. If you group many small opponents in to one place with something like Sucrose ult, and you do like 2 normal attacks with Tartaglia, they just disappear. They're not there anymore. And if you're going against some bigger mobs and you combine him with someone like Xiangling, who can apply constant pyro, he's doing so much damage that it's it's illegal. It's like illegal because his vaporize procs are so strong. And his ult can literally one-shot anything, because if you have enough good enough artifacts and you do good enough reactions and shit like that, but yeah, literally who is gonna C6 him, get him a Refine 5 weapon, and yeah, to be honest, you just can't one-shot things like the GOV chefs, the big GOV chefs, because they're just too big of an HP pool. But who can do that? No one can do that. However, there's one synergy with Tartaglia I have to bring up that I recently picked up because I managed to get C6 Fischl. And with the C6, he's a monster. He's a monster. He destroys everything. You don't even need to ult anymore once you get this. I've got C0 Tartaglia. However, he's a monster. He's a monstrosity of a character when you combine him with C6 Fischl. You might think that his E cooldown is like too big, but if you use him correctly, as I explained in my Tartaglia guide, he's the best. I think he belongs up here, because yeah, he isn't good against hydro stuff like the mimics or the hydro slimes and yeah, against hydro shields. However, if you run him with a secondary DPS, as you should, if you don't have it at C6, he definitely belongs to God tier. Now, moving on to Fischl. I think C6 Fischl is the only 6-star unit in the game because of how strong her OS is. The only thing are the weak elemental reactions that's holding her here, but once the electro buffs come out, she'll belong here. She'll be back up here because of how strong she is. And like, I would put her like this, like in between, because she's definitely she's stronger than Klee. Yeah, because Klee, don't get me wrong, Klee is strong. Xingqiu is also strong, but she doesn't need to have ult to do what Xingqiu does, and she doesn't have to be on the field to do damage, unlike Klee. And yeah, she just does so much damage if you max her out and you max her E and get her to C6, get her a correct weapon. I don't even have a 5-star weapon for her. I can't even imagine what she would do with something like, how is the weapon called? The Skyward Harp? Yeah, Skyward Harp, or another 5-star bow. She can even also be a main DPS. Her physical build is also strong, and with the new Pole Flame set, I think she'll be broken again. However, there are so many small mobs that I would rather use her as a sub DPS, and in that role she just shines. She can outshine anything at C6. She doesn't do like those giant numbers, but if you run an Electro Charge, a great combo is for support is Xingqiu and Fischl. If you use these two together, they'll make anything disappear. If you use these two with Hu Tao, everything will just disappear. Now, Diona. I think Diona is a little bit underrated because of how much utility she brings. Her heals from her ultimate are amazing. Her shields from her E, the shields from her E are also amazing. However, that's not the only thing about her. Many people do not notice that her E actually gives you a movement speed boost and a stamina consumption reduction, which is great. Because if you're using someone who spams charge attacks, like Tertaglia, if you do the charge attack build, or I don't know, someone like Yanfei, yeah, Yanfei is the great example, or C0 Hu Tao, she's great, she's just too great. And also, if you manage to get this girl to C6, she can boost your entire team's elemental mastery if you stand in her ult by a shit ton, like 300, maybe 200. I don't exactly remember the number, but it's quite big, actually. So I think she belongs in the S tier. She definitely belongs in S tier of how many things she can do and how strongly she can do it. Now, Ember, yeah. I'm actually do this. Ah, that was a mistake. What color was it? I'm dumb, sorry. My bad. Now there will be another tier. That will be self-explanatory. Now, don't get me wrong, her kit isn't that bad. It's just that her damage is so tiny that... Like, why the hell does her Baron Bunny scale with her HP? I just don't get it. Why would it? Also, her constellations are dog shit. Like, I think she's the worst unit in the game. She definitely needs a buff. She's the unit that needs the buff the most. She's the worst of the starter characters. Even Lisa's better than her. She's like 3 tiers below the C tier, and maybe even lower. I'm sorry to all Ember mains, but that's just how bad she is. Now, moving on to Diluc. I think Diluc is a great character. He can do one shots. He has CC, and he's cool. However, his playstyle can get kind of repetitive because you do just bonk bonk bonk, Phoenix bonk bonk bonk, and that's how we play it. Like he can do nice one shots if you combine with him with someone like Diona. He's actually great. Or he's wonderful with Chongyun when he doesn't have his Pyro Infuse, because you do Cryo normal attacks and then Pyro E, which can do pretty decent amount of damage. And don't get me wrong, I would, like a few months ago, I would definitely put him here. However, there are so many new characters that are way stronger in terms of damage than him that I have to put him in here. And I'm actually kind of sad that I have to do it, but that's just how it is. Like, he's definitely better than other characters in the S tier, but he just isn't good enough to be put here. So I'm gonna just put him like here in the front, and I'm gonna just do this as well to make it even more accurate. Now, moving on to Kaya. I think Kaya is actually a wonderful unit. Like you think, yeah, he's a starter character. Ah, he's dog shit. He's just a character that you get constellation. Every, like, if I remember a few months ago when I started to play, like everyone was annoyed when they got Gaia constellations from the standard banner. But actually, if you look at them, they're not bad. Except C1, that one sucks. But C2, longer alt, that's awesome. His C6 is awesome. He's one of the more premium characters to C6 because you can get him only at the standard banner, and who the fuck would roll in the standard banner? I did it, and I burned my fingers because I got a C2 Chi-Chi. But overall, I think he belongs here alongside Zhang Ling because of how great his ult is. And you can also do perma-freeze comps with him, like Tartaglia perma-freeze or Xingqiu perma-freeze. Yeah, I think overall he's a great unit. He's a great unit, and if his damage wasn't so low, he would be even better. But he's great for elemental reactions if you combine with him. He's one of the best supports for Hu Tao. Yeah, the best one is Xingqiu, but the second best one is definitely Kaya. And I remember when I tried level 70 Hu Tao in the Abyss, just to see how good she is, I used a level 40 Kaya with her, and he was way better than the other support I used with her. Now, the big daddy himself, the Geo literally god of a unit, who is the strongest unit in the game right now. Before the buffs, he was also god tier. He would also be here before his buffs came out. However, now he should have a separate tier, like a god of gods, because once you pull Zhongli and build him, you're never gonna receive damage again. If he's on the when he's in your party, you're never gonna receive your damage again unless you're completely dumb, because the fat shields from his E are they're just so big. I mean, they're just so big. I've never found a single mob that could pop my Zhongli's E shield unless I was dumb enough to let it last the full duration and it just fell apart and I got damaged. Actually, maybe the Tartaglia popped it once before I maxed his E talent, because I just stood there and let him hit me to see how long the shield will last. But overall, I think actually the only thing that could break Zhongli's shield was in this old Spiral Abyss and those Jovi shaps, if I let them hit me too much. Yeah, that was the only thing. But other than that, you'll just become unkillable once you get him. His ult does so much damage. Like, if you've seen my Zhongli, if some of my videos, yeah, he does like he can do like 50k damage, and my Zhongli has a level 60 or level 70 Star Glitter Spear. Yeah, the energy recharge, free to play spear that is completely useless because, yeah, I had a better build for him. He did like 100k plus damage at level 7 ult, but yeah, when I pulled for Zhao, he just stole his artifacts because and his spear, or his best artifact, because of how good the artifact was. But if you build him, he can become anything. He can be a shielding support, he can be sub DPS because his pillars do so much damage if you build him correctly, or he can be a main DPS. And with the new Pale Flame set, I think he will be even better main DPS than he was before. He doesn't have the biggest damage numbers. Like, you can't do Vaporize with his normal attacks, unlike Tartaglia. However, what you can do is just pop something like Albedo E or Fischl Os and never have to swap back again to any other support, because you will never need heals. You'll never need shields because he'll give everything himself. You can just run him with some superconduct like Fischl Diona or Fischl Chi-Chi, Fischl Chong. It doesn't even matter who you use him with. He's just so great. You can literally use him in any team comp. If you combine him with Zhao, Zhao becomes an unkillable god. An unkillable DPS god who just destroys everything in his own path. Like, I actually one of the most like unkillable team comps that deal decent amount of damage is, for me, is Zhao, Chi-Chi, Sucrose, and Zhongli, the unkillable god. The daddy god of Genshin Impact, who is, for I think a long time from now on, gonna be the best unit, unless they make a better unit that will outshine him, but I don't think that would come anytime soon. And if you're like hesitating whether to pull for him or not, I think there's nothing to hesitate for. There's nothing to think about. Just do it. He'll pay you back the amount you invested into him like 1,000 times more. Now, moving on to Xinyan. I think Xinyan is a great unit. Her shield, the shield from her E is literally good. Like, you're always getting upset about getting defense substats on your artifacts, right? And she just loves it because, yeah, you can build her as full damage. Like, you can burst damage with her ult, which does quite some decent amount of damage. If built correctly, she can be a great main DPS. She can be a sub DPS with her E. You can build her pyro damage, physical damage, or as a shielding support. And overall, she can one-shot cryo shields with her ult. She can just burst them down. I think she definitely belongs here, or maybe even here. I'm not sure. I'm gonna put her in here because she's good at her own things, and I can't actually tell whether she's better or as good as Xiangling, because yeah, she's so good, but she's also it's hard to decide. However, she makes Barbara a unit, because when you lose Xinyan's E, it constantly applies Pyro to yourself, which will cleanse the Barbara's Hydro that she applies. Which is quite great, because then you are not getting frozen to death, and that's definitely great. And that's the thing that could make these two a good combo. And overall, I think her damage is quite outstanding. The fact that when you get C2, your ult, the physical part of your ult has a 100% crit rate, which is like amazing. You can build like 250% crit damage on her and just one-shot everything, if you build her correctly, of course. Like, don't get me wrong, you can't one-shot everything, but she does some decent amount of damage. And I think she's definitely a great unit overall. Now, moving on to Albedo. Actually, to be honest, I think Albedo might be one of the worst 5 stars in the game. Like, don't get me wrong, he's good. His E is good. It does quite shit ton of damage. I've used him on my friends' accounts, and I've seen a difference between the bad Albedo and a wonderful build Albedo. He's the best support for DPS Zhongli, because he provides him with the Geo-Resonance, and also his E synergizes with Zhongli so well that it's outstanding. He can also make someone like Ningguang a viable character. If you build like Zhongli, Ningguang, Albedo, it might be a decent party, and it might make Ningguang a usable DPS. However, there's one thing about Albedo that just drives me nuts every time I use him, and that's his elevator. Like, imagine if you're, for example, using a Diluc ult, and then you just see Diluc casting his Phoenix, preparing for a swing, and you suddenly get lifted into the air, and the Phoenix just flies above the head of all the enemies and doesn't do anything, which quite sucks. I think he's a good unit, but because his elevator is so stupid, I just have to put him in here. I don't think he deserves to be below because of his elevator, but I think he deserves to be right. This is the right place because, like, his E is great. His E is definitely great. But if it's getting outshined but by things that do the same thing as his E, like Xingqiao ult, Fischl ult, that also apply elemental reactions, that he's just not that good. Like, he's got a good kit that has some good things in it, but he's only great when used in Geo comps. I don't think he's good with any elemental team comp. Like, don't get me wrong, he can... I think some of his talents even give you elemental mastery, but... Who would you rather use when you're running, for example, Tartaglia, Fischl with Diluc as the second DPS for Tartaglia? Would you rather use an Albedo for shields and his E, or a Bennett? Well, the answer should be obvious for everyone. Whatever. Let's move on to the next one. Now, Ganyu. I think Ganyu is one of the best units in the game because I don't know who designed her. I don't know who like balanced the damage numbers on this character, but why the hell do the charge shots do so much damage even if your build is not so good? I just can't. I just can't like come to understand this. Why? Just why did miHoYo overtune this character so much? Like, on paper, she looked like a support character when I've seen her kit. But once she came out and I've seen how much her charge shots do, I just couldn't call her a support anymore. She's a good sub DPS or main DPS, and I think that her ult is very valuable. I might actually put her here because she's got so much damage, and cryo is so great element right now. You can run freeze comps. You can run freeze combo. She's actually a great combo with Tartaglia because when Tartaglia's E is on cooldown, you just charge shot with Ganyu, and when it's up, you just ult with Ganyu, and Tartaglia freezes anything, and just everything just dies. It can't even move. It can't even attack back. You don't even need a freaking healer. And you can run a Bennett as well with it, and it will be great. Yeah, everything will be like pink flowers and birds singing. Whatever. Let's move on to Hu Tao. Now, I think Hu Tao is the same case as Ganyu. Who the fuck balanced numbers? Like, why do her charge shots do so much damage? Like, my Hu Tao does a 4-star weapon. The 4-star weapon that is the worst base attack in the game, the deathmatch. She's got the worst base attack as a character in the entire game. And most of my substats in my Hu Tao build are attack percentage. Like, she's got like 100% extra attack percentage from her substats, and that scales of literally nothing, literally dogshit base attack. And she still can do like 60k with her charge attack and not even blink, not even break a sweat. Now, if I had a Homa on her, I don't know what she would do. Like, I don't think there would ever be a content that I would like find hard. Because she's just so overtuned. With my dogshit build, I've did like 300k with her ult, and I didn't even try. I didn't even try to do some of those nasty combos like Sucrose Bennett. Or actually I did, and did those 300k, but even without those combos, she did 200k. And to remind you, my Bennetts base attack is dog shit, so he doesn't give nearly anything. His talents are not the best. My Sucrose has low elemental mastery, I believe, for energy recharge because of Xiao. So my Hu Tao, even with their dog shit build, could do like 600k if I build my supports correctly. And if I had a Homa, she would do like million plus. And that's just who Hu Tao is. I think she can, if you combine with her with the good support, she can one shot everything. She can literally one shot anything. I think that I don't know how big the HP pools of the current mobs are, but I think that maybe even the Geovi Sheps don't have more than million HP. Like, yeah, the Primal Geovi Shep is not one-shotable, but I think the middle ones. And also her kit is so fun to use. She's the best sub DPS for Tartaglia. Like, these two pair so well. It's outstanding. It's even better than the synergy with Ganyu. And the fact that her Japanese voice actor is Megumin is also makes her great. Well, yeah. My boy Zhao, our Kirito, is even better. But yeah, whatever. Let's move on. Now Rosaria. I think Rosaria is a great character. I've used her without any artifacts, and I think that her ult itself is great. It's actually like a Kaya ult, but it doesn't move with yourself, so it's good for someone like Kree who wants to stand in the distance and just normal attack from distance, or Yan Fei, or Diluc, or anyone who is Pyro, because the melts are just so amazing. The melt does so much damage, it's outstanding. But overall, I don't know. I just don't think her like stats are so amazing. I didn't get to use a like well-built Rosaria. I think I'm gonna put her in here because yeah, she can be a main DPS, she can be a sub DPS. Actually, I think main DPS Rosaria might be great with the new Pale Flame set because her E has quite a low cooldown actually. It might be good. As a sub DPS, she's wonderful. If you get her to C2, congrats. You've got yourself another Kaya. Just kidding. She's great. I think she's a great unit to build, definitely. Now, last but not least, Yan Fei, the most recently released unit that I've iterated myself. Now, the thing about Yan Fei, I don't get it. I just don't get it. How can she be a how she can be a 4-star? She does so much damage. She's a yeah. You might call her a pyro version of Ningguang because she stole her idea of the free normal attacks and the charge attack, like for the Scarlet Seals. But she also stole the Razor ult. You might say she also yeah. You might say she stole many things, but I think she's a great unit. She definitely belongs here, up here, because I've tried her at level 60 with like 160 crit damage, level 80 weapon, and took her into Abyss Floor 9 and 10, and she did like 25k with her charge attack. Shit, I think, yeah, level 80 with it, and she had a build, my Hu Tao build, and I just don't understand it. She does so much damage. I'm looking forward to seeing how strong will she be when I reach her full build. I think she can do even 50k with her charge attacks and not even break a sweat, because if you give her some great weapon like the battle pass weapon, she'll be so strong. I'm not so sure. Like, for now, I'm sure she belongs at least in the S tier. I can't say I would put her in double S tier because her burst cost is actually quite high. Even though her energy recharge isn't as bad, I didn't even notice that her burst is 80. A burst cost is 80 when I use her, because like she had her ult pretty often up. The only thing that might be holding her back is that her elemental burst works like Razor's elemental burst. Like if you swap her off, you just lose the buff, which gives you Scarlet Seals over time and gives you charge attack damage bonus, which is quite great. And you also lose the Scarlet Seals you've stacked up if you swap her off, I think. I'm not so sure. Yeah, you do. You do. So that's like a little disadvantage to her, but yeah. I think that's the place she belongs to. I think this is the place. So so that's all the characters. The only character that is confirmed and that will be out is Eula, but unfortunately I haven't even seen her yet, because unlike other people I don't care about leaks, so I can't put her in here. But from what I've seen in her kit, she might actually be good. Definitely in the new Spiral Abyss, that one is literally made for her. She's got an interesting kit. She will be definitely S tier minimum. She might be here, or she might be even here, up here. I can't say because I don't know how big her scalings are, but I've overheard that her ult can do pretty decent one-shots, like really decent one-shots. But we'll see about that in like 2 weeks. Or how long is it till the Eula banner comes out? But for now, that's all. So if you have any questions about the characters I've mentioned, if you have any like comments about them, if you think I've put anyone in the wrong spot and unjustified them, feel free to let me know in the comments. Although I don't think this is like an overall. This is just my personal opinion about the characters. Like, this doesn't make them that tier. It's just my personal opinions and experience as a low spender who's seen a lot of well characters, a lot of end user even if free to play accounts. And you might disagree with me, but that's just how I see it. So please don't be mad if I rated your main character as Amber tier. Anyways, that will be it. So goodbye and see you in the next video.